time. If it's that time, we're on LinkedIn Live, Hour of Empower. So glad you could make it today. This whole show is for you and about you. And myself and Gretchen, who you know really well, are here to do whatever we can to get you some really quality takeaways that you can use right from the show. And what we found to be very effective in people's mind uh, direction is having a key word. And today it's courage, which is such a wonderful, valuable word, but even a greater activity if you can assume more of it. And like I say, chat's open. We depend on you to direct our conversation, want to be as relevant as possible. I see Allegra. I haven't seen Allegra in a long time. So nice to see you, Allegra. Thank you for joining. Roxanne's here. So great to have Roxanne. She had a show last week, and I'm trying to get as many people who are in the audience on the stage because it's important to be seen, and people who support people should be supported. Yep. Right? So I'm all for that. So if anybody wants to come on the show, reach out to me. I'll have a call, and that'd be great. So with that said, one more. Oh, geez, they're flying in. Happy to be here and connect. Tracy, Kelly, Neil, so happy to have you. You people are so wonderful for taking the time and the attention and trying to help us, help you, help all of us. Kelly's here. She's the best. Allegra, great to see you guys too. And with that, I'll turn it over to Gretchen. She could relate to some of these comments, can talk about what she sees courage as being. And Gretchen, take it away.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love the word courage because I think everybody has an idea of what it is for them, and we kind of think we recognize it in other people, but what it actually does for you, when you exhibit courage, whether it's, the moral conviction of that moral, courage to stand your ground in the face of injustice, which we see all around us all the time, every day, or it's that sort of, that from your personal story, that empathetic courage that you have because you understand where your situation can impact somebody else. I mean, just all of those things. I think it's so important to understand what courage means. It's a very universal term, but it's also quite subjective. And I love that because at the root of everything is personal, and it should be. And so courage is just such a great word. I love that that's the topic today.
Well, I think every part of your life requires a certain degree of courage. Some are just a little bit, like when you walk out in the dark, there's some courage there. Right? You don't know
right.
what you might be stepping on. And there's also emotional courage, physical courage, that you can apply. Because in essence, I believe courage is really a reflection of one person's optimization of their ability to do things and be proactive and be the leader instead of the follower. So when you show courage, a lot of times it's only seen by the people who receive it, right? People jumping into a fire. I mean, people like that. I mean, they demonstrate it, Gretchen.
Yeah. I think it's also one of those things, going back to it being personal and subjective. Courage is only real when you don't care who sees it or who, whatever. It's a thing. It's very personal and very private. And a lot of courage is extremely private. Everybody is going through their own something, right? And, their own extra special, yucky, great, wonderful, horrible, you name it. Everybody's going through something. And I think it's really important to give proper recognition to those private, courageous moments that people have, because they can go missed. So there are people who be like, well, that's just what I have to do to get through. And I want to, hug those people and say, that's why you're amazing. Because that kind of private courage where you don't have a shouting audience going, yay, you're so wonderful. You have to be that for yourself. That is extreme courage. When you have the tenacity and to keep going in the face of extreme odds, that is absolute courage that nobody may ever see. But that's why it's so much more important, because because nobody sees it, but you know it's there, and it keeps you going. It steels you to continue the journey that you're on. It's so important for everybody to do. And I think that's really, especially done in today's world where everything is so immediate and we think everything should be public and, all that kind of thing. And there is value in sharing, absolutely. But also, even if it's not public for you, to give validation to the fact that you're doing the thing, you're staring it down, whatever you're afraid of, and you're doing it. And I think that that's just so important to recognize for people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you use words like courage, it's like using dominoes, where they connect with things like honor, pride. You do it because it's the honorable thing to do, the patriotic thing to do. If you look at people who are the most courageous, they're the ones who have the most to lose.
Well, and that's a definition of courage, isn't it? It's being able to act in the face of fear.
Yeah, I mean, what you're dealing with is proactive turmoil almost, where you're choosing to enter the fray, right? You're choosing the challenge that is impacting someone else typically. And like we say here, if you can't do it, could we do it?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes having the courage is helping somebody with their courage.
It's also very courageous to ask for help. For some people, that's a huge hurdle. And so being able to raise a hand and say, you know what, I need a little extra help here. I need some support. That's a huge act of courage for a lot of people. And I think, it's definitely something that deserves that kind of validation. Again, anything that is it strikes a chord of fear in you that you stand in the face of and say, we're not doing this today. That is an act of courage. And they can be really, for a lot of people, it may not seem courageous to say, I need help. It may not seem courageous to say, I'm going to make a major change, in my own personal life. Nobody else may see it, but I'm going to change it for me. It may not seem like that for other people, but it absolutely fundamentally is courageous of that person doing it. Anytime you are staring something that you fear in the face and saying, I'm going to do it anyway, that is courage. That is just blatant courage right there. And I think it's really worth mentioning that, because we don't see so many of the courageous acts that people do on the daily, we don't see them. And that's another reason why they're courageous. If we're only doing them because we have an audience, well, that's just playing a role. That's not courage at all. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess there has to be some level of risk for courage to play a role, because you're giving something up and you may be hurt for it. It's not even like, do I get benefit? You may be in a dangerous situation, or I think a lot of times, like everything we talk about, people say, yeah, courage, love to have a lot of it. Where do I get it? And like everything else, it's one step at a time. It's one action at a time. Mm-hmm. I think the key to courage is just looking at what have you been putting off, right? There's a whole list of things, and being courageous is maybe applying yourself a little bit more than you're used to, standing in a longer line and being okay with it, and those little things compound over time to be big things. And you feel better. And, so many people feel at risk when there really isn't. It's inside of them, I mean, so many people are afraid of jumping out a window until they find out they're on the first floor, and then there was like, well, the window was always there, but I magnified the risk. And, courage is something people admire, people get emotional about, and it could be a quarterback who's playing on a bad knee, right? Decides to stretch it out for another 10 minutes. It's that over and above that makes it all worthwhile for everybody to engage in it. And let me just share real quick. We got so many great people. Aaron is here. Hi, Donald and Roxanne. Thanks for sharing and having a nice day. And it's so great to have people saying good morning, have a nice day, sorry I'm late, because it shows respect. And I think courage is being respectful, right? Could be to a country, it could be to a cause, it could be to whatever it is. but it's usually tied into something more important than the person themselves, right? They're doing something bigger than themselves, or it wouldn't take much courage, right? So Dean's here. Dean's a great guy, comes here almost every day or every day. Thank you so much. Rita has been a strong supporter last few weeks. Have been on the show twice. So great to have Rita. I mean, she's got a wealth of knowledge and wisdom and a generosity to share it. We've got Pauline Elder Morris here. Thank you so much, Pauline. It's great to see you. Harvey, who has done now 2 Fridays with Christy Hunter. Hello, everyone. Harvey is also, I would say, a very courageous person. He's so diversified. And what makes him courageous, I think, too, and a lot of people here, is he loves to be optimistic. He loves to tell stories. He loves to share. And courage is sharing. That's because it's applying to more than yourself. Linda, who's just the most wonderful lady, and courage can come in many stages in your life, and sharing your something can help someone else realize they could make it through too. Yes. And that's so important, modeling. Allegra, so yesterday I lost my 2 credit cards and driving license. I have no idea where I'm going next. I'm now in Italy and need to find a different place for next month, but I've learned to ride the wave and not react. Well, you know, the wave is going to keep coming whether you're ready or want it or not. The question is, how do you how do you work through it, play through it? We've got Dean, one's integrity. That does take a lot of courage. And to Gretchen's point, that's something people don't always see. You do things because it's the right thing, not because you couldn't get away with it, you know?
Right.
You know, Roxanne, I believe Gretchen knows, is so me. I hate asking for help. Well, you know, help is fun when the person you're asking is doing themselves a favor by providing it. Mm-hmm. Someone's got an overflowing cup and someone has nothing. It doesn't take a lot of courage to share what you already have and what you have a lot of. Harvey Tuck says, oh, I like that. It takes courage to ask for help. It takes courage for everything to go above and beyond. And I think that's part of the reason some people get super successful. They keep finding more courage. Good morning, hopping in for
good luck, Angela. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah.
Angela.
Yeah.
On to something, huh? Oh, yeah, the interview. Yeah, good luck. Good luck. Hope everything goes well.
Yes.
And that's so nice to go into anything knowing you got a fan club right before you go in. Good morning, everyone. Lillian's just wonderful. I'll be talking with Lillian. You can't have courage without experiencing fear. Both of them are teachers. You know, every word we have is a teacher. Thank you, Harvey. Christy's here. Thanks so much, Christy. So nice to have you. Christy's been with us for months now and is a great supporter. Now has a show with Kelly, you know, so I'm so proud of all these people taking this as a runway and building their own direction. Kofi was here yesterday as a host for the first time. Nice. Such a wonderful individual. I was reading a book that he sent me, which is incredible, about his life story. Rita, you're so kind and generous. Well, thank you very much. Love my counterpart, Harvey Tuck. You know, and that's nice to be able to pair up with people, you know, and give people a little bit more flavor, go a little deeper, be richer. Courage is being true to yourself with integrity. So right, Christy, you know, and that's the key. If you're proud of yourself, that's what courage does for you. And everybody has whatever courage muscles they have. All you're supposed to do is use them when you need them and when you can. And I think, you know, practice does make perfect. Thank you, Dan. It's such an amazing experience, part of the show. What we do here is so important. I'm proud to be part of this. Well, you know, I just love when words are proud, happy, positive, because it shows people can use those words and people get positive benefit. And just think if everybody would turn the anger and hate words, and they're just words, into the opposite, they would have the same impact, but in a different direction. Good morning from Johanna, and Johanna's coming on the show. You know, I'm talking as many people as I can, you know, to get more people here. I'm the youngest of my family, no problem asking for help. We caught up for a second. uh, Gretchen. So, what do you think about audience participation?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's one of the things I love most about the live format is the immediacy, excuse me, of the back and forth when you can talk to people and you can really in real time like get their thoughts on things. How did they feel about the topic? I mean, I can, I like to talk, but my thoughts are only as necessary and really valid as what they help other people discover or uncover about themselves. But that I love the audience participation. Yeah, I've actually like during your show, we've seen people help each other out in the comments, work through issues in the chat in the comments, like challenges that they're having. I love it. I think it's all just such a nice byproduct of this particular format that you don't get in the others. So I think it's yeah, I think it's great. I love it.
Well, that's great, and you're always so happy and positive, and that does project, and that increases everybody else's happiness level, and that's why modeling is so important. And this is a social platform.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of power through our amplified networks that we can spread quality messages, messages of hope,
Yeah.
messages that can build confidence. It's really like going to the gym, right? Some people work in certain machines based on where they want to get stronger. Other people are doing other exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the key is to come in and say, what do I got to work on today? What do I need more of or better of? Or maybe it's not even it's a person, right? Who on that right side column is there that I could actually get to meet? Because what we all have, and I think to Gretchen's point, we're all here together at the same time talking about the same thing. So we're already aligned. And you can always say, hey, I've been noticing you on Gretchen's show or Don's show. Really love your comments. It'd be great to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's as easy as it gets. And it's already kind of pre-vetted, right? And they're going to see you another time. So there's even more motivation not to be the one who said no to someone who everybody is trying to. So, yeah, isn't that funny? I mean, and that's why this thing is hysterical, because if you take live as being alive, right, and not just another video, every word that comes out of your mouth is a surprise to you as soon as everybody else hears it too, right? Because nothing scripted. No one said, oh, today I'm going to fit this in at a certain point and get it said.
Yep.
And maybe that allows people to open up to themselves and the people around them, because no different if you see a few people laughing hysterically, right? And they can't stop. No matter what it is, you're going to start laughing hysterically without even knowing what the joke was.
Yeah.
Just by being part of that group. So, Gretchen?
Yeah, no, I think that's really, I mean, I think the spontaneity of the live format is really important, especially for real actionable dialogue, because it gives people a chance to hear something new and really in real time digest it and figure out, okay, this has relevance for me or not, but it's going to spur thoughts, and it's the best way to have a conversation where you can do it live. I mean, it's the worst when you see something and you're like, oh, I want to really contribute to that, but you're like, it was filmed, a day ago or whenever. I can't actually reach out to that person. But if I say something or you say something great and people are like, yeah, or if I say something and people are like, wait, what? Like, they can say that too. So I think that's also really important. I think, when we're talking about courage, that also is a very courageous thing to do. It's very courageous to say in the chat, this happened to me. I have to figure things out. And immediately you're going to have people who are like, I'm going to send positivity your way. I'm going to hope for the best for you. Now, there are going to be people out there who might be, oh, the platitudes, whatever, send positive thoughts. What does that do? You'd be amazed what raising your vibration can do for other people as well as yourself. So there is a lot to be said. I mean, we're vibrational beings. Everything in the world runs on vibration. That's why, we say, tune your frequency to something more positive, just like you tune your radio or your TV station or whatever. It does matter. And so for people who are going through that, who have the courage to raise a hand, and for everybody else who has the courage to say, I'm going to go outside myself and give something to you, even if it is my positive thought, that's one of the most personal gifts you can give to somebody. So give that positive thought, give that mental hug if you can to other people. because they will receive that, and that's very important. Again, that's that power of, that collective action. And mental action is still action. And it's really important to be sure that, we validate that and the courage that it takes to do those things. And so again, it's just another byproduct of having a live audience and a live chat in this format where you can just, in real time, talk about things that matter to people. And I'm sorry if I can touch my, I have one of Newman's hairs is like on my face. So sorry. Yeah.
And Newman is Gretchen's dog.
He is my dog. Yes, yes. We just got back from a trip to Alabama, a long drive trip, just him and me. And so, yeah. So he has very long hair. So yeah.
Well, that's so funny because everything kind of blends in, whether it's words, whether it's emotions, whether it's gestures. And what I love about this format is there are no filters. There are no places you can hide. And that makes everybody exactly who they are in front of you as who they really are.
Yeah.
In today's world of misrepresentation, misinformation,
yes.
Everything you got to question, is this a real person? Is this a real something?
Well, you can see I have the glam filter on. Just kidding. No, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying. And that's actually a really good point, is that in today's world, you really do need to do that due diligence, and ask yourself, is what I'm seeing and experiencing really real? And it's interesting because, like I was telling you before we came on camera, I'm doing a presentation later on the 18th of May next month about perception versus reality. And the reason that's important is, it goes, I know, Johanna was talking about mindset, and it's very important because your perception is the lens through which you see the world, right? It just is. But it doesn't have to be true to be what you believe to be reality. And I'll give you a great example, right? So I visited home recently and it was great. And I wanted to hang out with my dad and it was great. And so, yeah. Oh, it's funny. I'm sorry, Harvey. My Newman just met his cousin, Pebbles, a dog, a miniature dachshund. So that is hilarious that your cat is named Pebbles. But so I visited home and I didn't tell everybody that I was coming because I want to preserve that time with just my dad. It's very important because, I don't visit that often. So a lot of people are like, come see me, but I really want to spend that time with my dad. And so somebody made the comment, oh, well, I guess, you're mad at me because you didn't let me know you were coming. That's a perception that person believes. That is not reality. I'm not mad at anybody. I just want to be sure that I protect my time with my dad. But what I'll be sure that I do from now on is let people know I am coming. I will be in the area, but I'm protecting this time with my dad. And I'm sure everybody can understand that. And so, but that is a great example of a perception that is not rooted in reality, but that person believed. And so that was a conversation we had to, that was necessary around that. It's very, very important to in an AI filter kind of, is it really real world to really think about, because you will have thoughts based on your perception. You will take actions based on your perception. You will create life experiences, good, bad, or in between, based on your perceptions. And I'll say it again, they don't have to be true to be what you believe. So we have to be really careful with that. And again, that to me is also a great act of courage to say, wait, let me be sure that what I think is rooted in something that tangible, and it's difficult because, we want to respond in the moment. We want to react right away, but sometimes we have to step back a little bit and just ask ourselves, one, what's really happening here? Two, how really real is it? And how much does it affect me and the world at large? How much am I letting it impact me? And is that impact good or bad? And you have to be able to discern all of that and then take action based on that. But a lot of times we have a flip response and we take action based on the flip response. Somebody at work does something we don't like, now we're going to be, short with everybody because, somebody cut me off in a meeting or they didn't respond to my email. Now I have thoughts about why they didn't respond to my email, when maybe they didn't see it. Maybe I sent an attachment, it went to their spam folder and they didn't even see it. But a lot of times what I'll hear from people is, well, he's not going to give me that promotion. He doesn't like me. He never even responds to any of my emails. Well, okay, so who is he? He is your boss. How many emails do we think he gets a day? Are you prioritizing yours? Are you following up with him and saying, hey, Bob, did you get the email I sent you? Or are you just sitting hoping something happens? Again, our activity in all these things helps contribute to what we're seeing. And that also is an act of courage to stand up for yourself, even if it's just to make sure that you're preserving the reality of the perceptions that you have. And you're asking yourself those questions. It's really important. So I just wanted to touch on that for a hot second while we were talking about courage and AI and perception and all those other things, because now more than ever, it's so important. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Well, and that's what the beauty of having people on together, multiple people, is because what someone's saying is now building thought with another person about what they're saying, because you follow the lead, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And while you were talking, and I think you made so many wonderful points of value, is some of the hardest courage is being honest, is honesty courage, right? It's not jumping through a wall or doing anything that's going to be in Superman, but it is something that takes a lot of courage. The people who can't, we talked about this in the past, people who can't take a compliment well, right? People who can't say I'm uncomfortable and no one ever knows about it, right? If someone says, there's too much salt in the soup, but I'm going to eat it anyways because I don't want someone to feel bad, or whatever it is, that's where it begins. And people brought up the word integrity, and being honest with yourself is hard too, to admit that, hey, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I should take responsibility, but it's also then the ego shows up, which takes away from courage, which tells you people owe you something, which tells you you're getting cheated and taken advantage of if you do something like that, or what harm will come to me if I share my inner truth, right? And then what that tells you is the courage to test who you're with, to see if they'll accept you for who you are. And if they won't accept you for who you are and what you are, it just tells you you got a bad fit. Right? It doesn't say you're bad. It doesn't say you shouldn't even build on your inner truth, because I think what we're talking about, especially in this dynamic changing world, is definitions get adjusted all the time just by little pieces, right? Just by an adjustment. It's not these back absolutes that really make the difference. And the thing is, and I think that's where pride comes in. Can you go to sleep every night feeling proud of who you were today, what you did today, and more importantly, what your intention was? Too many people are focused on the result, and the results continue, but the intention should be the same, right? If you're here to do good, if you're here to feel good, and the best way to feel good, like we talked about mirroring somebody's laughter, is to do something and watch that person feel better because of your intervention or support for them.
Yeah.
What that does, it builds your muscles to say, wow, I got a really good kick out of that. Where's somebody like that I can help? It is everybody on the show, everybody around you is in the same position you are every day. Everybody needs something in a way that they can't seem to figure out. And that's what life is so exciting and mysterious, is how do you go about solving issues, not avoiding them, not. Right. And that's courage too. And I know you've gone through some tremendous change and transition and things that you never planned for or could have. Right. And I think you dig a little deeper into yourself and you get richer with yourself. And it's like reading a book you can't put down. It's like, what other characters can we change here? What other locations could we, bring your life story, but also create that along the way. And that takes courage. Go ahead, and then
Yeah.
we'll introduce
Yeah.
them to these people.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, I think it's one of it is a singular act of courage for people to be able to give themselves permission to fall radically in love with themselves. And that means you do what you, right? You do you is a phrase, but you do what you need to do. Things will fall into place as they need to. So if you're eating that soup that has too much salt, you can, do a couple, you have some choices there. You can let the host or the restaurateur or somebody know, there's a little too much salt here. Can I thin this out with do you have some extra broth or water I can add to it? You can do that. Or you can, simply say, wow, maybe next time I'll try this with a little less salt. Or maybe it's just, salt additive and it's a taste of too much salt, but not actually, but you don't know. And by not saying anything, you do two things that are both bad. By not saying anything, you deprive the other person of the opportunity to know what you need, right? And help you with that the next time to make it right. You deprive yourself of the opportunity to get what you need. And you increase the ability of yourself to build and harbor resentment, because now you have to deal with this. Well, you don't. You can say what you need to say. You can always be tactful, respectful, non-confrontational about it. You don't have to come at everything like it's a fight. You can do that in a way that benefits both parties and everybody can win. I watch people in the world in general, but specifically in my own area, almost create situations that, well, actually not almost, in fact, do create situations that don't have to happen, create complexities and challenges that never had to be there. If we just say what we need to say, if somebody, again, this is something I talk with some of my clients about. Somebody will have what I call a record scratch moment, where somebody does or says something and you're just like, what did that just wait, what did that just happen? And you can let people know, if somebody, says something disparaging to you in a meeting or somewhere, you could just ask them politely, I'm sorry, did you mean to say that to me just now? Were you directing that to, and again, you put the other person, allow them to be put into a defend or deny position. But you can let them know, and you can preserve your own integrity. And in doing so, you help educate and train other people on how you expect to be treated. And then over time, you get treated the way you want. You don't have to worry if that other people can read your mind, because nobody can, right? And that's that, and a lot of people do that. Well, they know what I think. They've known me for a while. They know what I think. They don't. Just tell them. You can be non-confrontational, completely respectful. Just tell them. Give them the opportunity to meet you halfway, and everybody wins.
Yeah, and I think it takes courage to be kind.
It does.
Especially in the way you communicate, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it, and it's how people hear it.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people, because they don't have a lot of courage, they get aggressive. They get loud. They show their displeasure with something that really backs people up, instead of encouraging them forward. And a lot of times the most important thing to say is, can we talk? Not already have what you want to talk about and what you want to say before you have that talk, and let me just share something with you, right? Yeah. Everybody will say, yeah, let me listen to what you got to share. And if you say, well, I know this probably wasn't your intention. I mean, you really don't know at that point either. But
you give them the benefit of the doubt. Absolutely.
Yeah, but here's what I have been seeing and hearing, and I thought maybe it was a once in a lifetime event. Maybe the first time I just glossed over it. Yep. But this is affecting me, and no different if you're allergic to peanuts or something. No one would ever say, I don't like your peanut butter pie because it doesn't taste good. But if you said, I've got a terrible peanut allergy, somebody would be like, thank you so much. The last thing I want to do is get someone hurt or not know about it. And you know what it is? That's the person. It's not you. It's not yours to judge. And, it took more courage to say it than some people respond to it. And, the response then, if you're kind and generous, would be, thank you so much for sharing that. It really makes a difference now.
The other thing too is to understand that not everybody may be able to respond right away. Sometimes people need to digest what they've heard, and they need the space and the permission to take it away and really think about it. Not everybody can be prepared to respond in the moment. And that's a huge weight off the conversation when you can allow that, and you can continue that. But I also think it's important, and you made a very good point. The way that you say anything determines whether it can be heard or not. So if there are two people or two entities and there's heightened emotion on one side, you cannot have a conversation. You cannot have a debate. It will be a fight every time because of the emotion. You have to be able to either diffuse the situation, to, gather conversation, or you have to wait until and let everybody know when we're all in a better headspace, a little calmer, then we can start to discuss this. Because when you're in that heightened emotional state, you're back down at the bottom of, Maslow's hierarchy, right? So you're in the safety and security mode, and you're in protection mode. My feelings, my point, and to what Harvey was saying, courage is also the ability to sit back and listen to what the other person is saying, hear them, right? Give them the opportunity, because you're going to want the same thing. And somewhere in the middle there is going to be something. And again, 80-20, whatever you want to call it, but there's compromise in every life situation, and that's okay. That's part of negotiation and everything else in life. But, that is also really important to understand, how and when you can have really meaningful, fruitful dialogue with someone. And it's not when people are pissed off, and it's not when they're super upset. That's a time where listening is good, but your point won't be heard. And so if you try to force the conversation, then what happens? We know, we've all been in that oh, they didn't listen to a word I said. They didn't care about what I had to say. Well, no, because they weren't in a mental frame to be able to even take it in. There's too much else going on. Give them the space, just like you need the space for you. How many times we just said, I can't right now? Right, because you're not in that mental space. But we expect the other person to acquiesce to when we're ready. No, it's got to be mutual. And that also is a very courageous thing to say, I can't right now. It's also courageous to say to the other person, I can see you're very upset. So I know this isn't the time to discuss this. Take your time. We'll come back to this. Right? Unless you're trying to get out of the way of a speeding train, there's really there's no reason that you can't give the other person that time. And that's really important. And that is definitely courageous to do. And it will build harmonious relationships forever if you're able to do that. What a great sign of respect for yourself and the other person.
Absolutely. And, I think the worst thing you can do is say you're going to do something and not do it, not get back to somebody and stretch it out and keep them in silence, because they say, give me a yes or give me a no, but don't put me in the purgatory of maybe, right? Because I can never come or go, right? If it's like, oh, I'm not sure, come back tomorrow. And, after a while, trust is so hard to achieve and so easy to lose. And so many people work so hard to build something up to neglect it in a moment in time, and they reveal themselves.
Yeah.
And then you feel betrayed.
Yeah.
Right? Because then it's like, wow, I didn't even think, I just, at a certain point, you trust somebody, you don't think what's going on. You just work with them. You just do things. And I think courage is just understanding that things are going to go certain ways. But I do think Gretchen makes a tremendous point. And the point is that you need to do everything you can to build bridges, not walls, to encourage calmness, openness, and not rise to the occasion. I never forget when I started in retail, and you'd always get an irate customer or somebody who's just pushy, gets really angry. And if you got a store full of people, I mean, everybody can hear what's going on.
Yeah.
And I always found when I got to a whisper, that person came way down too. And I think, people are waiting for your response. There's a lot of bullies who aren't as big and strong as they appear to be. Yeah. As soon as, like Gretchen says, you question somebody, And all of a sudden now they got to be responsible where they used to just be intimidating. But before I turn it over to Gretchen, let's cover a lot of these people. Paul, hello, great seeing you again. It was a wonderful weekend. Cindy says hello, Don and Gretchen. Dennis is agree, like going to the gym, it works out. You got such a great way with words. There's a lot to be said about a positive mindset. Paul comes back with courage is my experience about doing things scared. I remember my mentor, who's one of the greatest speakers in the world, tell me she gets nervous every time she gets on stage. Well, fear and nerves in a proportion are good for you, right? Keeps you a little bit more aware, a little bit more on your toes. Too much of anything, either way, can work for you or against you. Happy Monday. Missed you all the last few days. Kim hit it out of the park last week on the show. So grateful to have Kim with us. Johanna Renee, you're right. Positive mindset is everything. This is why I come here. Harvey says, I feel you, Gretchen Pepples. My cat is currently biting me and my shirt is covered in hair. Kim Wheatley Morris. Hi, Kim. Harvey. Haha, small world. Johanna. It's always a treat to tune into Dow Cones Live. Thank you so much, Johanna. What's funny, I'll tell you about Johanna, is there's people from around the world here. We discovered we're like 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
And so you just never know what you don't know. Hi, hope you're doing well. Allegra comes back with, I had so much experience of that when I was away from my daughters. Kim, hope you're doing well. Me too. Linda, oh yes, knowing if real is sad but true and has created many issues for life, a person, a family, especially when many were taught your word is your bond and today's words mean nothing. When after goal without thinking of action causes other people, I'm sure there's more to that. Cindy, when a person is depressed, having someone who helps with your perception is so important.
Yes.
They should have perception therapy. No, this didn't come from a person, place at all. Ha ha. Yes. I think that's so important because sometimes someone just looks at what you're watching and says, hey, get rid of that slasher movie and put on an I Love Lucy. And I mean, pretty soon your whole mind will change once that happens. Good evening. Thank you for coming. We've got, had a great example of perception, Gretchen Skelka. And people that true to your bond, your word is your bond is so important. I mean, I can't tell you my whole life was built on handshake agreements. Mm-hmm. It was you doing the right thing. I do the right thing. If it doesn't turn out right, we're going to work to make it right for everybody. Because, you're making money with people instead of off of people at that point. I like this quote, courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, but also what it takes to sit down and listen. And sometimes the second part is much harder than the first part. Thanks for sharing, Gretchen. Kim comes back with asking myself questions to determine if there's clear evidence to confirm what I'm feeling or perceiving helps me, and just like a workout buddy, if you got a friend, it's like, tell me what you think, right? You just got an outfit on. What do you think of this? And it's important because it validates things to you that maybe you need some validation to step forward. Ask him like, okay, we've got Allegra. Yes, absolutely. It's having that sense of self-worth, and self-worth has so much to do with courage, right? Yeah. Because if you feel strong enough about yourself and what you believe in and who you are and what you've done to get to where you are, you should be pretty courageous in defending it, supporting it, but more importantly, spreading it. It's not a weapon, it's a tool, and if you can do that, now it works for a lot more people. Toxic environments, it's so important we become more courageous because allowing it tells everyone it's okay when it's not. And you're misrepresenting. Now you're steering people in a direction that they would have never been in if you would have spoken up and said, hey, because everybody always says after the fact, well, if they would only told me they only needed $100 to save their house, if they would only, I don't have enough for food this week, right? And that takes courage. Yeah. But you would say, why don't you just tell me? It would have been nothing to me. I would have enjoyed it, right? And then you feel bad as that's how they looked at me. That's how they measured me, that I wouldn't be there for a little thing if they would just ask.
Hmm.
So, those are things people have to consider. Ambambola's here. She's just a lovely lady here every day. Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Uh, have so many people from Nigeria now just because of Ambambola. So it's so cool when a person comes, a lot of their circle comes wherever they go.
Yeah.
Uh, Don, you're right. It's how you say it makes the whole difference. And, how do you want to be talked to? How do you learn best? Well, typically that's how other people learn best and how they want to be talked to. So I got to ask yourself is, I don't know this person, but I know if I was this person, here's how I would like someone to introduce themselves. Here's what I would appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's actually something that I've spoken to some of my clients about, people who, don't like the way they're introduced in a meeting or to a group. And, if it's their boss or someone else. And I'm like, there's nothing to prevent you from introducing yourself. You can teach people subtly every day, consistent action, respectful always, but how you expect to be treated and referred to. And you can introduce yourself, you know, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing to state that you can't. And so, but I think that those are those social cues that a lot of people out of, and again, it goes, there are regional, there are cultural reasons, there are gender reasons. All this plays into, some people will just, deference is something that some cultures really, they pride themselves on. And so that's considered like an act of defiance almost, to speak out for yourself. But again, you're not doing it in a defiant way. You can do it completely respectful of the other person, but also making sure that you are preserving your own, because your own, integrity as well, and respect. Because to Dean's point, if you don't, you're letting them know that it's allowable. And so if they continue, it's not their fault. You have let them know through your non-action that it's allowable, that you're going to tolerate it, but you're not tolerating it. You're internalizing it, and you're actually kind of seething about it. You don't like it. And you tell your friends, and you tell, you're like, can you believe he said that to me? And, oh, if only I could have just said this, that, and the other. And it's like, in the moment, now you never want to respond from an angry perspective, because again, the other person's not going to hear your words. They're just going to feed off that energy. Remember, we talked about energy. So you always want to be sure that in the moment you can handle it in a respectful, tactful way. And there are a couple of phrases you can just have in your back pocket, that can help you with that, and just so that you're aware of what those are. And again, that is very important to know, that you can take that control back for yourself. You can help people understand the definition of how to respond and treat you, and collaborate with you, and all of those things, and speak for you, as some people like to do. You can help people understand what is and is not appropriate in your view, because nobody knows you better than you. You are the authority on you. You get to say, you get to call the shots on you. Don't give that power to other people. That's also courage.
Absolutely. And here's another thing that comes to mind, and so many things come to mind. And if you multiply that by 40, 50 people in the audience, how many minds are being fortified and nourished, is sometimes you have to have the courage to fast forward and decide, hey, I'll take the hit here. Right. So, in other words, for me to do a little to get out of this conversation that's going nowhere, or with somebody who I know is just going to make this harder, it's like, do I just have the courage to say, okay, you go first in line, even though I was first, right? Do you do something important for somebody that's unimportant for you, and you decide, I'm not going to get into it to be competitive. I'm not going to know this person well enough to try to even teach somebody something new if I'm only going to be with them for a few minutes. And that takes, and be good with yourself about it. Too many people compromise and accommodate and feel bad afterwards. And somebody says, hey, I got out of there in 5 minutes. It would have taken me 20 if I would have went along with this. And I know the result, how it was going to end. So I just cut it short, didn't put good time after bad time, and it allowed somebody to win who I know probably if I would have really got into it, they wouldn't have, so it's.
But you both win there. And again, it's a really good litmus test. Anytime you have a recurring meeting, or you have somebody shows up on your calendar, or there's an email from somebody, and you're like, I don't want to deal with that person. I want to go to that meeting. The person. that is unresolved business on your end. They don't know, probably. I mean, there are some people who may pride themselves on, being the rock in your shoe. But if you don't ever stop and examine it and take it out and go, oh, there's a rock in my shoe. If there is somebody who pushes your buttons and you dread going to work, seeing them at a social event, going over to a friend, whatever, wherever they are, you have unresolved business with them. And again, it's the next time whatever it happens, the interaction, it's a great opportunity to go, I'll just, Jack, I don't know, Jack, but Jack, I've been meaning to mention this, and forgive me for not doing that before, but it has really bothered me when you referred to me as Gretch, right? My name's Gretchen. I mean, I don't really go by the shortened version. I know a lot of people want to do that, but I prefer Gretchen. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that before, because I probably gave you the idea that was okay, but I prefer Gretchen. Thank you. And, again, you're respecting yourself. You're correcting a situation. It may never happen again. If it does, Jack's probably going to be like, Gretchen, I'm sorry, I forgot. But over time, he'll remember. And that's one less thing you got to deal with. You can handle those. But again, when you have those, anticipatory dread, there's unfinished business on your end. There is a part of you that is crying out to be respected. And that is your courage moment to say, I'm going to address it this time. This time I'm going to do it. And the more you do it, the less it will happen. And then you're free from that happening in the future. What a great feeling.
Yeah. And that's really the key is how do you want to walk away feeling through an encounter? And do you want to carry what you just experienced with you, whatever that is, good or bad?
Yeah.
So if you go in with the intent of mutual benefit,
yes,
how do we both, or one of us at least, come out of this better for it than making things worse or making it even harder to be in the same room with?
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to be gracious. You've got to hold certain words back. Yes. You've got to mold certain words in a way that are easily digestible and acceptable, because anybody can prove they're stronger, right?
Dean.
Okay, I gotta see what he says now.
He said, so you're saying bless your heart isn't the best way. Now, that's a Southern insult for anybody who doesn't know. And Dean, I know, is Southern as well. So, yeah, bless your heart. God love her. God love. Those aren't compliments, people. Those are insults. So, yeah, Dean, no, it's definitely not the way. I would not do that. But to your point, Don, yes, you can be respectful about it. And I think that also, when we're talking about what Kim was saying about humility, you can let the person know, because again, they may be embarrassed that this has gone on so long and nobody ever said anything. And you can say, what, I'm sorry, I probably should have said something the first or second time, but I wasn't sure what to say. I didn't know if it would, hurt your feelings. And I certainly don't want to do that, but I need to get this off my chest. I got to tell you, I really wish you would call me by my real name, by my proper name. Or I really wish that you would let me finish a sentence before, you start giving me your point. There are good points, but I think, you want to hear this. And if, again, let's say you have a boss who constantly interrupts you, you can let them know, oh, hang on. Just let me finish my point here. I really think you're going to like what I have to say. And then I really want to hear yours. And then also, when somebody cuts you off, right? If that's a thing that happens that irritates you, let them know, hang on. So I really want to finish my point, because I really want to hear what you have to say after you've heard it. And then when you're done, invite them back into the conversation. What do you think, Rick? What did you think about that? Invite them back in. You can own that situation. And that also, again, is a very courageous thing to do, to respect and honor yourself enough to say, I'm going to correct this. I don't want this to go on any longer. This gives me bad feelings, and who needs that? When you have a choice, right? You could fix it, but ask the other person for their partnership in helping you fix it. Own if it's something that you've wanted to correct for a long time, but just haven't, own it. I've been meaning to say something, but I just didn't know how to say it. But I really don't want another situation to go by, because I want to enjoy this time. I want to get the most out of this meeting. I want to hear what you have to say, but I need to say this first, and fix it right then and there. Woo! Weight off your shoulder. No more worry about it.
Yeah, or even do whatever you can and say, hey, to be continued, right? I'm so glad we had this initial conversation and we covered a lot of ground. And, you know, I look forward to the next one where we can kind of, you know, come to a better situation. So if the intent is to make things better, not to blame, not to accuse, not to judge. And the other thing I learned in my experience, when you talk about yourself, people listen a lot better than if you talk about them. Right. And if you say, you know, I got to share an experience. This is what happened to me, which is basically what's happening with you and them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just got into this and, you know, I figured out if one could talk about it and share, it really makes a difference. And because people aren't as defensive as, you know, I just noticed something you did to me last week and I want to go over it. All of a sudden, you go back to when you were a kid. What did I do? What trouble am I in?
Yeah.
You know, what's coming up? And all of a sudden, your mind is going to defense, fear, mystery. And then when they tell you, and it may not even be in your mind true and truly true, not something you're denying.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now you're defending, right?
Yeah.
And you're being attacked, right? And what's the resolution? You know, not very good.
Yeah, I think Anne makes a really good point about the pride preventing people from asking, but I also think pride prevents people from having those real necessary conversations because, you know, well, we want to be right and they made us feel bad. It's like being right and being happy are not, you know, always mutually exclusive, right? You've got to be able to temper one with the other. But, you know, if you want to be sure that it doesn't happen again, that you aren't made to feel whatever way you're feeling. So the best path and the most efficient route to getting there is partnering with the person as much as you can, you know, and letting them know, you know, I really, you know, want to enjoy this party. I want to enjoy the, you know, I want to get the most out of this meeting. I really want to hear what you have to say. So I, you know, but I need you to hear me right now when I tell you that whatever it is, whatever the information is that you need to share with that person, it's really, really important. And then you may have an ally that you never knew you had, but at least you've gotten it off your chest. They'll think about it the next time, you know, and you won't have to dread going to the New Year's Eve party, the Super Bowl party, or going to that meeting or wherever it is that person who annoys you is, because you've dealt with it.
Yeah, and I think what people have to do is give themselves credit that all you can do is all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when you're working with somebody else, you have no control over them and they have no reason to do anything they're not comfortable doing with you. And if all you can say is, I did the best I could, you know, it wasn't what I wanted, it didn't come out that well, but at least here's the thing, I did it.
Plant seeds.
Yeah,
Plant seeds. You may not have an immediate reaction. It may not have an immediate correction. Keep going. Plant seeds. It will, over time, you will help train and teach the other person how you expect to be interacted with, treated, spoken to, all those things. Give it time. Plant those seeds.
Yeah, and at least you did it. So it's not, you know, you don't want to be, oh, I was going to do it today and I almost did it. And something, you know, I just didn't feel like it. And then you know what, tomorrow is one day harder, right? Because it comes from yesterday. Yeah. Now, if you say, boy, I did something I never thought I could do, but boy, was I awful at it. And I laugh, and I laugh at, you know, in other words, you know, when you go roller skating for the first time, you're going to fall. You ride a bike for the first time, you're going to fall. Yeah. So if everything that was simple, like a bicycle or skates, when you add people into it, you know you're going to take a hit, but it's not going to be forever. And a hit is really just qualified as a lesson. Mm-hmm. You know, here's what they just taught me. Boy, are they awful. Boy, I'm glad I don't see them more often. I mean, find the things you should be happy about the person. Yeah. Because everybody brings something, you know, everybody has something, and it may be something physical. It might be something comical, but you know, everybody's family loves them, hopefully cares about them, you know, and if you can be the best you can be, that's all you can expect yourself to be. And when you're doing that and trying, you know, it's usually not the person who wins, but the person who gives it the extra effort that people admire, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody who's super duper should win, but it's the person that runs a race knowing they're not going to win. You know, you ever see those relay races where they have 8 people and someone's going to come in eighth, you know, but they still got to run. And most of them know they've been coming in there. But you know what? They're running.
Yeah.
They're on the field. And tomorrow's a new day for everybody. And who knows how much better you can be. So never look at today as tomorrow. And definitely don't let the past or people in your life define your future.
Yeah.
Right? Because you own your future, and your future deserves to be a bright one, a happy one, a positive one. And that's what these people make us with their lovely comments and support for each other and support for us, because you know what this is all about is building a community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's bringing people together in the best ways possible who are already pre-vetted, because everybody here could have been doing something else this last hour.
Right.
They could have been watching TV, doing whatever they did, and they chose this. And a lot of people choose this every day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to me, it's like some people choose the gym every day. You know, some people choose meditation every day when they wake up. Whatever it is to make you wake up, be better by other people's stories who paid a much higher price. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're sympathetic to people's stories. Just think if you had to live the story, how sympathetic you would be, or more importantly, how grateful you can be to learn from somebody else without having to go through that. But also, and I think that's what courage is sharing your stories that can help people. Not, you know, it's a lot of people, they share the story they want people to hear. They
Mm-hmm.
hear the story they like to hear, or the best story they can make themselves.
Yeah.
Right. But when someone gets down and dirty and just says, hey, here's what it is,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm cool with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what do you think? And that's all you got to do, is not what are you going to do, but what do you think now? Because thinking comes first. And with that said, we're top of the hour. I know we got to be respectful. I want to thank everybody, including Gretchen. If anybody wants to meet anybody, I would suggest looking at the comments of this and reaching out and making connections. If anybody wants to reach out to me or Gretchen with comments or thoughts, we'd love to hear them, because we don't know what we don't know until someone tells us to. And I invite constructive comments and thoughts, because I trust everybody, right? And why would someone who I know and care about do anything but that? So I think I got to give so much credit to Gretchen and so many wonderful guest hosts who kind of confirm what we're trying to do here, because it's working. You know, I can see people getting busier, getting more successful, but more importantly, by doing these on a regular basis, I could look back 4 months ago when me and Gretchen did our first one. Right? I mean, and we did good then based on what we knew and what we could do, but we got better, and each of us got better for it. So that just shares something. So Gretchen, last comments?
No, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I enjoy all of them. So yeah, I'm glad that a couple people, got something out of it, or a few people. That's always the point. So yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for being here, and everybody rest up for 23 hours, because Andrea's back tomorrow, and Andrea always brings a full heart and a wonderful, generous spirit. So with that said, have a lovely day, and we'll talk again. Bye for now.